Nils wants to
Well,
show you something.
I'm not sure if it's really something I want to do, but I was encouraged to do it. So, of course, any of these remarks has no relations to any of the presentations given in the previous 2 days, of course. So, I just came to think about that. The change from using a slide ruler to do the calculations to the computation done by computers nowadays had added a number of significant digits to the results that we are seeing. And I'm wondering whether we are taking all that really into account the right way, because there is a difference between 217.0 millimeters per hour and 2.7 times 10 to the power 2 millimeters per hour, about the knowledge that's built into that information. And if we think about the rain gauges, which we are referring to as the ground truths with very big fate, I think, then if we look back to this study that was done in Italy some years ago and presented by WMO, it says that if we have the low intensity stratiform rain, we have fairly good results. But when we start to look at extremes, then we have uncertainty up to, I think it's on the next slide, 15 to 20%. And these are gates that were maintained by the manufacturers and should be really the best of the best. So I'm wondering whether we really take this into account when we are comparing to the ground truths and are stating that we have this improvement of 0.1% or whatever it is that we are facing or chasing now. We also had using some empirical relation with some uncertainty. I remember this drawing here. I hope that somebody here can help me with the level that's given in the lower section. It seems to be there all the time. I don't know if it is a sort of rainfall classification indicating that we should talk about rain level 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 6, or it is a result of the AD converters at that time and the lack of resolution that it could be stored with. I'm not sure, but it could be also a signal for those who derived this relation back then that there are some uncertainty in utilizing this empirical relation. In 2005, we also had a presentation. I don't know if it was here, and it couldn't have been here, but some. Yeah, but this was made in. I just looked at. I just looked it up so to saw there was. But the local variability within one rainfall cell, and this is not a radar. It's the same size as a radar cell, but it's not a radar measurement. It was 9 rain gauges, and then looking at a 3-hour event accumulation, and we could see that there were quite some variation, especially for the convective. Stratiform was homogeneous. The other one was a little bit more. There was an uncertainty of up to, I think, a little bit plus 20%. So when we are looking at rain gauges as the ground truth, we should consider whether we are getting the right gate and whether we know exactly what we are doing. I noted a few things more. I don't think I have more here, no. But I noted that when we are looking at the radar rainfall, we are sort of drawing nice squares, and then we sort of think about that this is what the radar sees. We don't see anything, or we see very little about the distance from the radar. So we don't know how wide is the beam at this spot, and we don't consider, maybe somebody does, the PRF, the post-repeat frequency, to see how many measurement has actually gone into this. And we do remember there's something about that the beam width is delimited by a minus 3 dB to say how wide is the beam. But if we are close to the radar, there will be some effect of the side loops that will actually affect the measurement close to the radar. And further away, when we go from the polar coordinates, which all this is recorded, and then put it into a network, we may see some artifacts that some areas of the radar image is much better represented than it is at the further distances. There's also something about the AD converter. What is the resolution of that? And it's getting, from 6-bit to 8-bit to 10-bit to 16-bit, and it seems that there's no limit to what we are trying to do. We also look at these dual polarization, and we have to consider then when we are doing these calculations, also the Doppler, we are using consecutive scans from the radar. And the width of this is sort of depending on the scan velocity, is sort of affecting the accuracy of this. So, but of course, this is not related to yours, but I think it's relevant to keep it in mind. Thank you.
An obvious comment on slide 3. Because for me, not number 3, the previous one. So when we write rain rate millimeter per hour, it's already, because this DBZ is instantaneous.
Yeah.
So this millimeter per hour is...
I fully agree.
So you see, but I think that's why to keep a rain-based network in order and to spend a lot of time on it, that's why, for instance, maybe in Switzerland we just got 70 gauge for a long time. Because to try to keep the gauges maintained over a long period, calibrated as much as possible is very expensive. Yeah. So quality is very, very expensive. And unfortunately, to have high quality, we need money. And nowadays we are going in the direction they want to pay less money. So this is the big problem. They want to pay less, but they still require quality, and this is simply impossible. If you want quality, you need money and investment.
So we take this data and we use that to buy already.
There are some more comments, Peter. Yeah.
I'm not sure you explained completely what is on the image of the first graph.
This one.
Yes, upper left picture.
This is yeah. I know she doesn't know. This is not a device to draw.
I'm not sure everybody.
You should. It's an old-fashioned version of your pocket calculator or your smartphone. You know, the good thing about it is that it takes some time to do the calculation. So if somebody gives you a question, you have at least some time to think about what you're going to answer while you pretend to be doing some arithmetic.
Does anybody have a comment still to Nils' warning? Nils' warning? Yeah, Loris?
Maybe I saw a lot of people using weather radar data from weather services and then doing analysis and drawing conclusions. And then also we see that maybe the radar has supplied or things. I think it should be, the people should take the initiative to contact more the weather services to understand why this is happening, because maybe your pixel is just behind a mountain with reasons, and the radar cannot scan from the mountain. So, I mean, to understand better and collaborate much more closely. So this is why we are here as well.
Very true.
Yes, one thing that we've been struggling with the microwave link contact to assimilate the data, you know, and then you immediately end up, you have two different observations and you would like to know what is the uncertainty, you know. And we haven't found any nice catalog, like when you find individual like manufacturer statements saying my gauge is like this WMO thing, but like it would be really nice to have a list of like different sensors, maybe different configurations, maybe different events or so. So to say in this situation the error would be this. And I know from the early climate change days, they just had an expert, you know, what do you think the climate will be in 50 years, you know, so that would be probably a nice initiative that we get together and everybody says, oh, for my data in this situation, I think the uncertainty would be this, you know, whatever that is, you know, is that just constant, like with some range, and that's a Gaussian, or is it like some linear model, you know, related with rainfall, non-linear? So just having like this, the functional description of the error, that would be interesting to have for distrometers, for gauges, like of different kinds, for weather radars, X-band, C-band, different configurations, microwave links. So everybody says, yeah, we have to put this all together, but like the variability you showed, you know, that should somehow be expressed.
Yeah.
So that's like...
There might be a few analyses we wouldn't do if we were careful enough with the uncertainty.
I would say let's go down for coffee and continue this discussion.